Hey friends, so I've been digging around a little bit, and what I've discovered is that the actual folder we were looking at, which was in our .svelte folder up here, these files are actually, some of them are copied over from the adaptor-node. So if we go in here, there's this thing called adaptor-node, and in the folder called kit, there's one called assets, and there's this components and runtime, which are copied over directly. So these are actually the same files. If I just click on this and this, you can see the same. This one as well. I'm sure the other one's the same as well. But we'll just do one more check. We'll just click on the large file, which is the start one. I'm just curious to see if there's any changes here. Identical. Okay, that's interesting. So we're just going to keep stepping through the code until a point where we pretty much get tired of it, and then what we'll do is we'll actually look at maybe trying to look at the CLI at some point, the Svelte CLI. We might do it in this video, or we might do it in another one. We'll see how it goes. So what I've done is I've actually removed the breakpoints because they were just annoying me, and I've just kind of stepped forward to the same bit as we were last time. We got up to about 660, but as we removed all the breakpoints, we've sort of changed it a little bit. So I'm not really following along too much this logic because, of course, it's kind of new to me, but we're just going to keep looking at it anyway. So we'll come up to this changed point here, and this is going to give us this changed flag, and when we run the page for the first time, it's actually just set at, well, it's actually an object right now. So it's got these things: session, query, path, params, and then it goes into this try block, and that try block takes us all the way down to about 818. So it's quite a large try block there. So we're going to get these something called component promises. And what that is actually two arrays, array of length 2. It's got something called module. It's got a promise there. We create a context object and we loop through the component promises, and we get these two items. One's called previous, one's called previous context. We'd get this thing called module, which resolves to a class. We have something called preload, which might be preload a property of the object. I'm going to put a breakpoint in there because that's quite interesting. Maybe I will do that actually within the code so that I don't lose that. Actually, it's going to be in the generated file, and when you save or reinstall node modules on a generated or a copied file, it will override them. But maybe some code will be. Actually, that's a warning of porting code, or preload has been deprecated in favor of load. Please consult documentation. And we can actually just go and visit that if we want. So we'll just do that quickly. So a component defines a page can export a load function runs before the component is created. So that's the same. If you're from Sapper, we had the preload. This function runs both during server-side rendering and in the client, allows you to get our data for the page without loading spinner and fetching data on mount, which is what we do quite a lot in Mentor CB, which I'm planning to probably try and migrate to SvelteKit. Example blog page might contain load functions like the following. So there's a load when you basically put that in your component, and that will run server side before the client runs. That's quite helpful. That's good documentation running like that in that's how you do a sort of in-app error message. Alright, so we come down to this bit called change since last render, which depends on this thing called previous. And it checks a bunch of things. So it runs that for the first time, and it actually says true, because why? Okay, it could be anything pretty much. I guess it's worthwhile to actually see that. So not previous. So not previous is going to run through. So anyway, so this thing called hash. Let's get more space here. So hash is that, which is correct. And this thing called caches, which is a map. And what does that return? Nothing. So there's another condition here. So that's basically checking that if there's something cached and something to do with the context. And then we go into this thing called node, which is an object which has module and uses. Params. So it's looking for page params, and then what it's doing there is defining it's just taking the page params and putting it into something called params. And we go to this thing called session. So this is, let's just go up to see where this is. It will be part of renderer, and session originally was let me just put a breakpoint there and refresh it, see what that was. So session that was passed in was just, or null in this case. Okay, let's go back to where we were at. So session is just an empty object, and load undefined, so that's going to skip that, put a breakpoint there anyway. I guess what we'll try and do is we'll add some code, maybe some route, and we'll see what code in here gets executed, and if there's any changes in the generated stuff. That's probably going to be quite interesting, at least for the node adapter. And I'm getting up to 7 minutes of this video, it's already kind of long. So that's going to skip, and then down here undefined as well. Okay, it's also, and so we're getting down to 790 here. A lot of logic is missed out because obviously our app is very simple. And then it comes back up to here. So I guess there's a few component promises. So it looks like this logic's getting executed for each component, perhaps. Yeah. And it's running this preload call on each one of these components. And I could be getting something completely wrong here, but it ran twice and there's two components in there, so that's good. Okay, so I think we have enough for this video. It's been kind of boring to make this, but we've kind of stepped through all the code, and what we want to try and do is just start maybe looking at probably the CLI and then start changing some of the code to see what's generated, and if we can get some of those preloads to call on the client as well. Okay, well thanks for watching, and thanks for your patience for these videos are quite maybe not the most interesting, but we're going deep into SvelteKit, so that's what we want to do. Thanks.